So welcome to the FOXHALL Heath Stadium here at Ipswich, just in time for the Sky Sports Trophy. 20 laps of action ahead of us. These are the stock cars, 1300cc engines, and as you can see, there is a big field of them here this afternoon. Ideal conditions track-wise. With me is Graham Brown. Graham, what about this race? It looks like it could be a good one.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of action. We've already seen quite a bit earlier on today in races that we haven't actually covered, but this is looking very good here in the sunshine at FOXHALL Heath. It's ideal racing weather, and I think there's going to be a lot of action, a lot of bent cars at the end of it. And with Julie Neat sitting down there on the front row, I think she's a very brave young lady to be sitting at the front of this field, don't you?
Certainly, Amber, if anyone can handle this big field of fellas, certainly young Julie from Waltham Abbey can. She's been, over the course of the last few weeks, winning practically everything in sight, number 44. Keep your eye on her. She's gone into a nice early lead, 5.62, Ian Sutton just behind her. But Ian Sutton is the vastly experienced man. He was in the former saloon stock cars before this became the 1300 variety. As Graham said, it is an ideal day for racing, an ideal day for smashing and crashing, and my goodness, it's not going to be too long before we see a car turn over completely, I think. We have our cameras inside the cars as well. 92, young Helen Norris, another lady driver, gets the spinning. There's absolutely no love lost between these drivers. I continue being gents or ladies, they'll still get the same treatment. So 92, Helen Norris gets spun on her way. But it's still Julie Neat, our lady driver 44, that takes a lead from 5.52 for second and 2.24 in third. We have our onboard cameras inside number 9, and it's Titch Mancini, and 4.43. That's Derry Monk, and you can see the view from inside, and that's the kind of view the drivers are getting. Oh, and straight into the fence. That looks like Derek Mortimer over there. Is that Delbert? I think it probably well is. And they're smashing and crashing on both ends of the arena, but it's still 44 Julie Needs, and Derry Monk 3.09 over the far side. That's Chipley that took the big bump there, 3.09. Well, now, Graham, we're starting to lose a few of these already, aren't we?
Yes, and I noticed that one of our race cam carriers has just spun the other one out. Derry Monk has just taken Titch Mancini out going down the back straight, so not a lot of love lost between those two, despite the fact that they've got cameras on. Actually, considering the amount of action going on around the track, spinning and shunting all over the place, there's not that many cars out of the race yet. Although I see the yellow flag has just come out, Lee. I don't know exactly what for. Have you spotted which incident that might have been?
It's very difficult to see with so much of this track obscured by stricken cars. They're running across over towards 3.09. Yes, it was Stefan on the far side that we were worried about. Just a quick check on that to make sure he is all right. Quick medical attention. And we'll be getting away with the green flag on the next lap, which will see resumption of action. 14 laps. Julie Neat, number 44, from Ian Scruton, 5.62. Then number 3, Wayne Allen. As you see, the green flags are gone, and we're off and restarting this Sky Sports Trophy. 20 laps off the course then of this quarter-mile oval that is the Ipswich Raceway. So let's see if they could all stay out of trouble on this particular occasion. Number 9, Titch Mancini, who also has our camera this afternoon. He's the top of the points man. He's the man over the course of the season, the superstar that's got the most points over the course of the season so far. So he should be the one that technically and officially should be in the lead. But it's not the case at the moment. Oh, and right on the far side, 3.09, and once again we're in the wars once more with Chipling. Mark Chipling, and again, he's a man who's got his car for sale, so one wonders whether he doesn't care anymore. Another dent, another knock for 3.09, Mark Chipling into the fence. Here goes. A little bit of skullduggery going on there with Peter Martin, 2.06, but comes straight across on his Elmo. But Julie Neat takes it. A win then for our lady driver from Waltham Abbey. Julie Neat takes it. Elmo will be absolutely furious about that. Then comes 4.43, Derry Monk, our on-car camera, but it looks like the 1997 Sky Sports Trophy for the stock cars will go to the young lady from Waltham Abbey. Julie Neat takes it. It's the 1997 2-litre Hot Rod World Championships. A clutch start. A That's the way the grid looks. They're going to go off for a little go with the tyres just to get them absolutely used to the circuit. Just a slight little warm-up. You'll see them weaving round and round. There's 50 laps ahead of us. Now the defending champion, Mr. Keith Martin, 994, not here to defend his title. He's moved on to the national hot rods. Just before we start, it gives me a chance to say to Graham Brown, this is going to be one almighty, well, it's either be one almighty great race, or it's all going to end in the fence. It could be anybody's.
Yeah, it certainly could be, Lee. I mean, Keith Martin may not be here to defend, but David McCall is certainly well up there and ready to carry the colours of Ulster in this race. And here they go. The green flag is out there off, and it's Collard diving into turn one in the lead.
We've got our on-board cameras in as well, and it's David McCall with 942 and Rob Collard 21 with the cameras in, so it'll be very interesting to see how they can possibly catch them up. 6, Jeff Snellgrove, the Caterham driver, just behind him. He races in 2 formulas, and certainly there's lots of experience there. Jeff has been around since March of 1991. There's plenty of experience with Jeff Snellgrove, number 6, but 21 pulling away already. But there is 50 laps ahead of us, and anything is really possible. 942, that's the man to watch as well. That's David McCall, the Irishman. What are the Irish chances today, then?
Well, they're looking pretty good. I mean, it's a question of whether McCall and Gary Wilson in the 982 car can actually get past Jeff Snellgrove, and I have to say Jeff's doing a pretty good job of holding them off at the moment. McCall, of course, is in the new style Opel Corsa car, completely untried and untested. It hadn't turned a wheel before it come here, and Wilson has just passed him going down the back straight. The question is now whether Wilson can get past Snellgrove before anybody else arrives to complicate the issue. Eurocar star Mark Willis is now arrived with that pack battling for second place, and Wilson has got underneath Snellgrove going down the back straight as they go into the far turn, and he's through. And if Snellgrove stays out there, he's likely to get railroaded to the back of this group. Certainly McCall is looking for a way past Snellgrove, and it looks like he's through as well, and I'd say Snellgrove could be in trouble.
It's a non-contact formula, but my word, they're getting mighty close here, and if you haven't seen this particular formula before, it's the new 2-litre variety of the 1600s that was introduced back in 1986 as really the alternative to hot rod racing, and they've been bigger and better all the time as the gap starts to widen, and Snellgrove is really, look at McCall right behind him. Snellgrove has just got to really just to try and hang on, because there is a very, very fast Irishman coming up behind him, but it's 21. It certainly is a Collard powering away, and of course we have 19, Mick Collard out there as well, and we haven't seen him in action since 1989, so it really is the battle of the legendary Collards are back, but there's quite a bit of smoke coming out from 428, and there's quite a bit of smoke coming out from the back of 428. That's Peter Wingrove from Barkingside. Peter Wingston, 428, is going to be leaving it very shortly. You can't stay on with a car like that. There he goes. So Peter Wingston goes out. There's that engine that's gone. But it's still anybody's race with, to say, that whole of the 50 laps ahead of us. Away we go with the 2-litre hot rods. The 2-litre formula will be compulsory from 1998. There's still lots of 1600s out there, but when we get round to next year, they'll all be required to be 2 litres. First ever world final was here in 1989, here at this very track. And that's how it's looking. Paul Condy goes through on his very characteristic Anglia. 3-3-3, Paul Condy, there he is. It is getting a bit closer now, and that's... How do you read this now, Graham? It's getting mighty close.
Yeah, Robert Collard's had his style cramped quite a bit by the heavy traffic that he's in now, and it's allowed Gary Wilson to get much, much closer, and Robert was nearly a quarter of a lap up at one time, and now Wilson's right there on his bumper. Now the question is, will he be able to stay with him? And we've got 14 laps gone, and there's still a hell of a long way to go in this race, and Collard's really got a race on his hands now. And it's surprising, actually, that it's not McCall that's given him the trouble, which I think is what we were all expecting. It's going to be Wilson. We mounted a race cam in the back of Robert Collard's car, which looked like being a smart move when he was running away from the field. But he's not exactly doing that now. Wilson's hounding him every yard of the way, and McCall is the one that's bogged down in traffic now and unable to get at them. In fact, McCall is in danger of being passed by either Mark Willis or Jeff Snellgrove if he doesn't get a move on, Luke.
He's turning into a right old ding-dong battle as they come round now. There's still a massive 35 laps to go. But it's still the 21 of Rob Collard that leads the fray at the moment. But 9.82 is certainly in there with a shout as well. We're on board with Davy McCall, 2.42. That's the view you get from Rob Collard in 21. We've got inbuilt cameras in there. Collard going past some of the back markers now, but look, in hot pursuit, and 50's coming up as well, not so far behind him. And it's Knox and Banks coming thick and fast to the far side. Heaven only knows how they managed to avoid some serious stuff there. And round goes Snellgrove getting involved with that one as well. 21, out he goes, too close. My goodness gracious me, and Rob Collard's day is done, and for heaven's sake, who would have thought something like that? It looked Graham as Collard had this one sewn up, but there he goes into the fence.
I don't think Robert's the slightest bit pleased with that development, and who can blame him? And he's backing up the wall. I suspect he's probably looking for somewhere safer to park than on the exit to the pit bend. I just hope he's not looking around for Mr. Wilson, who is now leading. And he's got quite a lead too now, Gary Wilson. In fact, it's Ulsterman first and second. We've got Wilson quite a long way clear now of Davy McCall, who has somehow managed to dump the Englishman off his tail, because Mark Willis and Jeff Snellgrove are nearly a quarter of a lap behind him. So it looks as though whichever way this goes, it's probably going to be an Ulster victory, though there is still quite some long way to go yet.
Well, last year this particular heat and the particular final was held in Northern Ireland. This is certainly the formula that goes in Ireland. The sparks fly from the back of 19. That's because he went off on the back straight. That's Mick Collard, the legendary Mick Duffy Collard. We haven't seen him in action since about 1989, and certainly grabs that curb and takes the spark with him. Meanwhile, we're with the pack, and just look at that pack closing up. We're on board with 9.42, Davy McCall. The onboard camera sees the view that McCall has from his car. Mick Waldeck pulls the blue flag out. That means hold the line. Faster cars coming behind. 65 goes ever so slightly aside. Nearly takes McCall out with him as well. Meanwhile, it's 9.27 into the fence, and my goodness gracious me, that's an absolute disaster for the Irish, with Alvin Doak into the fence and in a very precarious position. The yellow flags are out and showing. The yellow flags are out. The situation is all cars must once again slow down. No overtaking now, 15 miles an hour maximum. The pace car will come out. They will pace these around, because as you can see, poor old Alvin was right in truly in the way there, and in great danger from the onslaught of cars coming round. Joe Miller waves them away from the back of the pace car. So there we see Irish 1 and 2, but 9.82. Gary Wilson got a bit of catching up to do. So the Irish all the way then. Davy McCall 9.42 with Gary Wilson in second spot, as the marshals push the sad state of Mick Collard out of the way. So both Collards have gone. We've lost Mick and we've lost the 21 as well. It's 9.42, 9.82 and 65 as they go round again. So Mark Willis, number 65, well, he's making his mark, isn't he? He's trying to move it around, but here comes 119. Malcolm Blackman. Malcolm Blackman takes Willis. So Malcolm Blackman in third place now with just 10 laps remaining. 40 done. 10 remaining to see the new 2-litre hot rod champion of the world. But this heat's changing certainly. Blackman's making a challenge. Blackman's going to go through for second. Now will Willis come with him? I think he's certainly going to. The Irish going down into fourth. So now we see McCall, we see Blackman, we see Willis. It's all looking a bit English all of a sudden. But can anybody catch the legendary 9.42 Davy McCall? We're on board with his camera now. That's the view that he gets. And there's a nice big open track in front of him. But Blackman is a mighty quick driver. And at the moment, if anyone's going to catch the Irishman, it's going to be Blackman. The gap is certainly closing. This quarter-mile oval is the Foxhall Heath Raceway. There's only 5 laps to go. Can Blackman do it, Graham?
Well, I have a feeling that this is probably Malcolm Blackman underlining what I was saying about cars resting, sometimes working better afterwards. I mean, Malcolm didn't look too hot in the first half of his race. Now he's probably running faster than McCall. McCall will be able to see him coming in the mirror. In fact, all he'll be able to see is that red Starlet. These two have crossed swords before. McCall will know what he's up against. And believe you me, Blackman is another man who never says die. It's definitely not over till it's over with Malcolm. He's even looking down the outside. So I think he may just have something left to give us here. And Willis has dropped off the pace. So it's just down to these two now. And there he goes. Blackman's got the lead. McCall actually went wide in the pit end and Blackman is through.
It's the old adage you're going to go, oh, and they've got to watch the contact. Oh, my goodness gracious me. Will we penalise the Irishman for that? That was contact of a big nature. The red flags are coming out straight away, and maybe a Blackman probably for that as well. The Irishman has got to go, surely. The Irishman has got to go. 9.42, David McCall. Absolute desperation there. He'd led for so long. Like the old adage of a marathon, you had nothing left after being out in front for too long. Along comes Malcolm Blackman, does his best, he does indeed, goes straight through and takes the lead, and then nothing short of being shoved out of the way by the Irishman. We wait for our clerk of the course to officially adjudicate on that. It's a disqualification, is it, or is it not? Well, of course, we were within the last 5 laps of racing, and the rules clearly state if you stop the race within 5 laps of racing, we go back to the previous lap, and on the previous lap, 1:19, Malcolm Blackman was in the lead, and therefore the 1997 2-litre hot rod world champion is 1:19, Malcolm Blackman. They go across to congratulate him, and that is going to be a mighty, mighty happy driver in there. Welcome to Ipswich for the big one. July 1997, it's the National Hot Rod Championship of the World. They're about to get underway. They'll have 3 warming up laps just to get their tyres going, just to get them absolutely set for what is going to be the biggest and best race of the year. And just look at that lineup. That's their grid position they've been fighting for the points chart and for the qualifying lap times here at Foxhall yesterday. Our starter marshal, Joe Miller, gets them underway with 3 warming up laps. It's 2:30, Dave Longhurst. And look who's behind in the legendary Irishman, Ormond Christie. With me is Graham Brown. Graham, Ormond Christie, well, many people have thought we would have seen the last of him, but here he is back again.
Yes, Lee, somebody actually asked me earlier on as I was strolling through the National Hot Rod paddock area whether having Ormond on pole position made the race something of a foregone conclusion. I came back and said, actually, I think it might be something of a 5-gone conclusion, because he is, in fact, going for the all-time record, of course. If he wins this time, he will have won more National Hot Rod World Championships than any other driver, including the famous Barry Lee, who, of course, has 4 victories to his credit.
Just before we start the race, let's just tell you a little bit about these supercars. They really are the cream of short-circuit motor racing, and needless to say, the most expensive. The machines you're seeing go around now can cost up to £20,000 ready to race. They really are very expensive machines, and consequently, you won't be at all surprised if you haven't seen this formula before to know it is strictly non-contact. No fuel injection engines allowed, no force induction, 220 horsepower underneath that bonnet on a car that weighs only 700 kilos. They do have a roll cage inside just in case they should topple over, as is statutory. And they must keep the exhausts below 95 decibels. If it gets any louder than that, they will be black flagged, and out of the championship they go. They run on the Avon tyres, and Avon have sponsored this championship now for 10 years. A great sponsorship with Kent Cams and Avon tyres here at the Speed Weekend. So just before we do get them underway, Graham, any prospects? Who do you think is going to take the 97 title?
If you'll forgive the footballing analogy, this could very much be a game of two halves, because we have several front-running cars that are very quick indeed. Ormond Christie, of course, we know about. Dave Longhurst on the outside of the front row, and Norman Woolsey himself, a three-time winner on the inside of row 2, with Colin White, the new English points champion for the second year running, on the outside of row 2. So they're all quite capable of winning this race. But there are several previous winners in the back half of the grid as well. The 91 champion Roger Peck is way down the field due to his not so good qualifying performance, as is John Stewart, who is looking for the win and quite capable of doing so. I mean, he's been second before. And then we have the 94 winner, Ricky Hunt, who's way down the order. So those three could be coming through the field in close order, and they'll have to avoid getting under each other's feet as they try to battle their way towards the front.
Let's just talk about Ricky Hunt for a second. Ricky Hunt has always been there. He attends lots of meetings, but not so much this year. We haven't seen quite so much of Ricky Hunt. Is that the main reason why he's halfway down the field?
Yes, he missed a lot of qualifying rounds, and some of the ones that he did do, he didn't do very well in, which explains his middle of the grid orderly.
Keep your eye on Roger Peck. He's another comeback man, and what a colourful car he's got. He really is one of the great showmen of national hot rod racing. As the green flag goes, and we're underway for the 1997 National Hot Rod World Championships here at the FOXHALL Heath Stadium at Ipswich. And 962 Ormond Christie takes on the challenge from 230, and that, of course, is Dave Longhurst, the man who's had so much to do, the man who is engine building business, has held him in good stead for this championship and other cars. They are very expensive cars, and in fact 230 Dave Longhurst had to sell 2 of his old style hot rods to pay for this one new one. But it's Christie in the lead, and there's problems with the smoke, and is that Christie there?
Yeah, he looks like, Ormond Christie looks like he's in trouble almost from the word go here. The car is trailing blue smoke into the corners, and although it's flying at the moment, there's no knowing what's wrong with it. It looks as though it's got some sort of engine problem, and if it's burning oil at any speed, he'll be very lucky to have enough oil in the car to finish the race. I mean, he's pulling away at the moment, but that could well be because Dave Longhurst can see the oil coming out of the car and doesn't wish to get it in his face and doesn't wish to be close to the leader when his engine does finally explode, because oil on the racetrack, one of the most dangerous things you can possibly have happen.
961, let's have a look at that. A man on fire at the back there. 961, that's Tom Casey from Ireland in the Fiesta, and he's got big problems, and he's about to be eliminated. Out goes Casey. That is a very dangerous looking car. 961, Tom Casey, the Irishman, must pull off straight away. Drama here in the 1997 National Hot Rod World Championship, and it really is seriously on fire. We keep the cameras on Casey. Casey jumps out of the way. He's okay, but that car is out in all senses of the word. Any idea the cause of that one, Graham?
No, the fire was in the back of the car. It could well have been a fuel fire. It certainly looked bad enough to be. Poor old Tom, I mean, he's worked so hard to qualify this year. He's a Southern Irish driver. He made the decision to come and qualify in the English theatre of racing. He's absolutely worked his equipment to deathly, and he is a budget racer, and he really has put that car through it this year. And I think perhaps the World Final itself has finally proved to be just a bridge too far.
So out he goes of this 75-lap grand finale to the year for the National Hot Rods. A problem for 116, and that's a big disaster over that far side, and heaven only knows what Drake Northering from Germany had problems there, and is that the back over the far side. We got Hunt in trouble, we got 994 going out. That's Keith Martin, and out goes Keith Martin, and who would have thought that Martin would have bitten the dust so early on in this National Hot Rod? Is going to be a controversial in anyone's race, and out goes 116 to the far side. The German really all over the place, isn't he? So 75 laps for this National Hot Rod World Final here at Ipswich underway. Still Dave Longhurst, 230 in second, is Ormond Christie trying for the world record 5 times. But with such a long race, it really could be anybody's race here. But Christie still has that oil burning from underneath as 93 goes out as well. Graham, wonders whether Christie really can finish this race.
Yeah, the smoke doesn't seem to be getting any better or any worse, and I still can't really form an opinion about what is actually wrong with the car. In fact, there is smoke in the cockpit. We can see as he comes past our commentary position that there is smoke in the cockpit. So it's probably coming from the engine bay, which does not bode well for the longevity of that Fiesta, even more so when he's under pressure now every inch of the way from Dave Longhurst's Renault Clio and Colin White's Fiesta. Ormond has now broken clear of the traffic and is back on open road, but Longhurst is not any further behind than he was before. And as I said earlier, I think Longhurst is really just trying to save himself from getting oil all over his visor so that he can't see where he's going, or trying to stay away from a possible engine blow-up right in front of him.
So here we go then with Christie, Longhurst, 718, 950, 25 and 138 as the way it looks at the moment. Dave Longhurst then 230, the 1600 hot rod, world champion for 90 and 92, the former driver of the year, European champion, 230 really has a complete collection. Who would have thought when you see this man running around the track now? He started his career on the grass tracks at Angmering near Worthing. That's where he bit his teeth in this particular formula, and off he went. Runs a very successful engine building business. As we say, he bought his National by selling the two 1600 hot rods. Well, I wonder how many fans remember the first time Dave Longhurst came out onto the track with the National. He went but 5 yards, he stalled it on the very first bend, and out he went straight away. It's a completely different story here today. We have our onboard cameras. We're on board with 175, John Stewart from Paddockwood. In the Stewart transport car, that's the view from John Stewart's car that he gets off the field as he goes round. Meanwhile, though, we now go back to the leaders, and it's looking mighty interesting at the moment. Graham.
Christie's really pushing the car now. He's pulling away from Longhurst with every lap. He's pulling out the lead by another few yards. Now, whether this is wise or not, very difficult for me to say. But perhaps he's hoping to gain enough lead that he can actually hold on with an ailing car in the closing stages. But, I mean, there's still an awful lot of laps to go. Roger Peck has just spun out on the pit bend, and he's involved in another incident with Steve Skidmore. That's another year where Steve Skidmore, the Banham Poultry-sponsored man, is not going to win this race. Second twice, and 1997 is another year that isn't going to be Steve's, and it certainly now isn't going to be Roger Peck's either after that spin. Roger has rejoined, but he's lost an awful lot of time. But as I was saying about Christie is really pulling out the stops to pull away from Longhurst. I think Longhurst has just settled back to take things easy. He probably figures that Christie isn't going to be able to make it to the finish. Another worrying factor is that the corners of the track are now starting to look very black. Now, with 33 National hot rods on the track, you would expect them to lay an awful lot of rubber out there, Lee. But is some of that blackness oil from Christie's car, I wonder?
A lot of it may be from Ormond Christie's car as they go round again. And again, with such a long distance ahead of them, the track conditions do make a big difference. You have to feel sorry for Steve Skidmore. He has always been there or thereabouts. He attends every meeting, and he really will go down in the history of National Hot Rods as being the so close but always very nearly man. Hard luck for Skidmore out of the race. The colourful car of Roger Peck, the 1991 champion. He's back in a very colourful way, but he's not going to win this unless there's a disaster. Ricky Hunt in midfield as well, but all eyes on the Irishman, Ormond Christie. I mean, who would have thought? He's been out. We haven't really seen him race since about 1990. He's been out. He's had a heart attack. He's been around in the sport since the early 70s. Ormond Christie has got to be one of the longest surviving, if I can put it that way, drivers out on the track, Graham.
Yeah, he certainly is. And you know, we were talking earlier on about how John Stewart and Ricky Hunt will be fighting their way through the traffic. Well, they're still busy doing just that. But look, less than a quarter of a lap behind them is the race leader. He's actually coming up to lap the likes of Stewart and Hunt, which shows you just how fast Ormond is running. There's still that little telltale trail of blue smoke coming from Christie's car. He's actually locked in traffic at the moment, absolutely enmeshed in back markers, and they're all being jolly polite to him, as indeed they should be. Start Marshal is waving the blue flag and they're moving over. But as Ormond progresses through these back markers, he is starting to come across drivers who actually feel they have still quite a good chance of a podium place themselves, and they're not going to be so keen to move out of his way, particularly if they feel one of their direct rivals will slip through in his wake, so to speak.
turning into a classic encounter, isn't it? Let's have a look at the third place man at the moment, and that's 718, the top of the points man, Colin White from Somerset. He's in the Fiesta, and he's in third position at the moment. He's the English points champion for the second year in the row. He jointly won the 1996 Driver of the Year with Longhurst. And he had quite a serious illness as well, and was forced down through much of the distance. But will he compete the field? He's certainly a favourite. We're losing a few more, but still Christie battles his way through the back markers. But Longhurst 230 has really got a back marker problem. To try and get past these people that are really in the way of him is not that easy, but certainly Longhurst is an expert at passing cars. He's got 1-2-4 in ahead of him now. That's Steve Wills from Norfolk in the Peugeot 205. If you're looking at these cars, £20,000 worth of machinery. Most of them are Peugeot 205s. One or two Fiestas out there as well this afternoon. 55 on the bank straight, goes very wide. That's Frank Tart. Looks like Frank Tart's day is done, and that will be a big pity if it is, because Frank, again, the man who's been there or thereabout in the Autotech Ford, rarely misses a meeting. Ray, 52 years old, and his wife Helen and son Ray are here to watch him, but Frank goes out, so Helen and Ray are not going to be too pleased with that. The 55 car goes into the infield, and out he goes. Graham.
Yeah, so Christie has just raced around the outside of Ricky Hunter, put Ricky Hunter lap down, and that's a jolly unusual situation for the 94 champion to find himself in. But like the true gentleman he is, Ricky stayed down tight at the bottom of the racetrack, right down by the curb, and Christie has gone flying by. Christie is still displaying that worrying telltale trail of smoke. It may be something, it may be nothing, but it certainly isn't slowing him down at this moment. He's not getting such an easy passage with Steve Dubman in the number 3 car. Steve, I don't think, realises that he's there. He's being blue flagged now, and the leader is actually just sitting behind him and displaying the characteristic Christie patience. And now Steve is pulling wide down the back straight, but he still hasn't allowed Christie through. Christie is not in any immediate danger. The Ulsterman still has around about a quarter of a lap cushion over Dave Longhurst. I'm sure that Dave is still running as close to flat out as he possibly can in that Clio.
So there we go. John Stewart is in the frame. He's 5th at the moment. Let's have a look on board camera with him. With 10 laps to go, here's your 5th place man, John Stewart, 175 in the Stewart Transport Peugeot. That's the view he gets, and he really is trying to do the catching up business now. It started off very exciting, Graham, but it almost looks like it's already done with the minor places, the big battle now.
Yes, I think so. And the countdown has begun. They've got now only 9 laps to run, and the countdown has begun towards Ormond Christie becoming arguably the greatest national hot rod driver of all time. If he wins this race, that will be 5 world championships, which nobody has ever done before, I would remind you. I noticed that the smoke has now diminished from the car. I don't like to keep harping on about this or possibly bringing any bad luck demons down on Ormond, but sometimes that is a bad sign, because it may just mean that whichever component is leaking that oil has now run out of oil. But we will see. He has very few, just 7 laps to do, just 7 more circuits of this Vauxhall Heath Raceway. He's about to put a lap on John Stewart, assuming that John lets him, and I think he probably will, and then it should be plain sailing all the way. There's a little handful of back markers coming up, but nobody that I can see causing that man Christie any problems now. He's almost in sight of the checkered flag. He must be able to taste this one, Lee.
As you were saying, Graham, even if he has run out of oil, run out of juice, he can even afford to slow down quite considerably now. He can almost start to have a few problems. Oh, and problems over the far side as well. And out they go. We've got a very, very difficult corner for them to all get through. The track is getting mighty slippery, and there you can only go around there in single file. My goodness gracious me. In 6th position at the moment, we'll pick up 198. That's Andy Stewart from Manningtree. He's the man that really did have the battle for the line last year with Ormond Christie. It was an absolute inch between the two as they went across the line. 198 Andy Stewart in the Peugeot. There he is. Lost it by an inch, and then had a big injury problem. The heat from the exhaust that he had his leg up against the side went right through his overalls and burnt his leg quite considerably. But he's back again. I'm sure he'll remember that to go. There's only just a couple of laps to go now in the closing stage of this 1997 World Championship. It's Ormond Christie, and there's a mighty great gap between him and Longhurst. There's the blue flag from our starter marshal, Joe Miller, but he'll have to check it out very, very soon. 1 lap to go for the Irishman, Graham.
Yes, there's no way that they can stop him now. The engine would actually have to seize solid or blow itself to pieces for anybody else to stand up for air, and Ormond has backed out. He's finally realised that it's his. He's backed off of the throttle and he's coming towards the start and finish line to win his 5th World Hot Rod Championship, and he does.
Ormond Christie once again takes the title of World Hot Rod Champion. And the whole stadium erupts here, not just the Irish camp, but the whole of Ipswich. They know they've seen a great competitor. They know now, surely, Graham, we are witnessing the greatest national hot rod driver of all time.
Yes, I think you have to say that is true. I mean, you know, for a long time, nobody thought that anyone would ever equal Barry Lee's record of 4 victories. And let's remember, Barry Lee finished setting that record back in 1978. So there's been a long, long time for somebody to do it. It took until 1996 for that man, Ormond Christie, to equal the record. And now he's gone one better. And it's 5 victories for Ormond Christie. Well, what can you say? He came, he saw, he conquered once again. And I make no apology for making that pun earlier on about being a 5-gone conclusion. And he maybe even heard me.
Does that mean now he's going to go into retirement and come back next July and take it again, do we reckon, or is this going to be it now?
Well, I don't know. I mean, when Ormond turned up here last year, when we knew that he'd entered the race, we were pretty surprised at the time, Lee, simply because everybody, myself included, thought that we had seen Christie's swan song in World Hot Rod Championships. He'd had a few outings in the 1600 Hot Rod Formula, but he had not driven nationals. He hadn't been to Ipswich, even been to the circuit for some 6 years. It was 11 years since his previous victory. And as I think you pointed out earlier on, in that time he has suffered a couple of bouts of heart trouble. But Ormond is one of these people who likes to take his pleasures from life. His doctor apparently has told him to give up racing, give up smoking. He's done neither, and you see the result of that training aspect there in front of you, Luke.
Amazing. The man is a legend. The man is amazing, and he will get the biggest cheer when he goes up to collect his trophy. Second place, 2:30 then, Dave Longhurst, and I'm sure Dave will be one of the first with the big grin and the big handshake. They really weren't flying around the track. Now next on the menu of action here at Ipswich, it's the Super STOX, and they're about to contend their national championship. 30 laps of the course about to get underway. 151 Nick Smith. He's got our onboard camera in this particular heat. The former World Cup winner, he won that in Belgium not so very long ago, so keep an eye on 151. We have number 88 at the back, that's Darren Innocent. He's always very, very useful indeed, the 1991 World and European champion. The single-seater Super STOX go around the opposite way to more conventional forms of racing. That's because they're not like a normal car, of course, not a saloon car. And they try to keep the driver on the other side of the fence, but when they're a single-seater, it doesn't really matter. So they go around the other way, powered by the Ford 2-litre Pinto engine, and a meeting of the metal over the far side involving Dave Pike, the Squirrel, 454. He goes out in a very big way, and Steve Brooks, 152, gets going, but Will Pike, he 454, well and truly stranded. We're finding now the national champion for 1997. These single-seater cars can really fly. This is a very fast track anyway, Graham.
Yeah, it certainly is for these cars, and when you have an accident, it tends to be quite big, particularly with these open wheelers. And Dave Pike's car, as strong as these cars are, Dave Pike's car, the one that went in the wall just now, the 454 car down there on the far turn, he's trailing ironwork all around behind him, and you can see he took a really big hit. And I think there may be a few more of those before this is over, Lee.
There's lots of action now, 22 over by the wall there. That's hard luck for Mark Kellerman, a very experienced man, and 155 is also in the fence, and that's Ian Sutton, and he's not going to be very happy about that. A very popular formula, the Super STOX, the legendary Formula 1 driver. Derek Warwick has certainly made his mark in this, and even the DJ, the presenter, Johnny Walker, has had a fair old go in this particular formula, so they come here from near and far to enjoy themselves. 151 has gone. That's our onboard camera. Nick Smith, the World Cup winner from Belgium, spins out on the back straight. Rejoins, but has he joined a little bit too late? Heaven only knows as the pack starts to widen. 65, here he goes, the white driver. Rob Johnson being pursued in all earnest by 66, the Holland driver, Gus Pronk. And Pronk goes through. 65 has bitten the dust as well, and he's got some sort of gear problem. So is the Dutchman, who's now in the lead there, number 65. Keep your eye on that. 66, Gus Pronk from Holland. The Super STOX always go very well indeed. We're in Holland, and over here they very, very much enjoy their racing. This is the popularity of stock car racing, introduced in Britain back in 1954. They first raced at New Cross Stadium in London. In those days it was just the one formula, but now they get bigger and better. Steve Gay's having problems, number 32. Again, Graham, they really are flying around here, but anything is possible in Super STOX.
Yeah, you're quite right there. And Dave Mason, young David, he's up in the second place now, and he's really motoring. And young David's already won one race here this weekend, and he's definitely out for the Dutchman's blood now. He's closing him in yard by yard. Every single lap he's moving closer towards him. And I think Mason, you know, he's going to catch him, and I don't think he's going to take him a lot to get by. He's actually closed him down from being nearly a quarter of a lap in front, because Bronk, he's now almost onto his back bumper, and he's going to be by any second.
So the Dutchman still in the lead, but Mason is right in touch with him, and there he goes, 118. Mason, David Mason, the former mini stocks man. He's had lots of experience on the short circuits, and Mason goes through then. The Dutchman is second. Gus Pronk from Holland goes into second spot. David Mason is your new race leader. There's still a lot of cars left in there, but is it going to be the youngster, Mason?
Yes, I think it could well be. I mean, this formula has always been a training ground for young up-and-coming drivers, of which Dave Mason is just one of the current crop. Super STOX, of course, was the formula in which Grand Prix driver Derek Warwick started his career all those years ago. And, of course, Derek Daly as well, who also used to drive the small open-wheeled stock cars. So it is an excellent training ground for these young drivers. And David Mason is certainly proving that he's got what it takes to move into the big league in oval racing, because if you can win at Super STOX, you can probably win at anything, because these cars run on extremely unpleasant tyres. They're about a 30-year-old design. No disrespect to the Avon Tyre Company who supply them, of course, because they are doing precisely what they are being asked to do, which is to supply a control tyre which makes the cars difficult to drive and doesn't allow them to put too much horsepower on the ground. And despite all that, if you can drive, you can still make things work for you in Super STOX League.
So still Mason in the lead with Steve Collison in that very nice car, 410 in second. Here comes Jeff Bridges, 258 for third. Well, despite what you say, Graham, it does take a lot of skill to manoeuvre those, although I do remember the chairman and founder of Speedworth, Les Eaton, once saying success depends 75% on skill and 25% on the car. And these drivers are very, very skillful. Bridges goes through to patch up to Collison. So it's Bridges, looks like, in second then, 410. Steve Collison in third. Mason goes through to lap some of the back markers, so let's have a look at 118. There he goes. Here's your leader, David Mason. Absolutely wiping the floor with everyone. Everyone else is a whole lap behind. 258 though, Jeff Bridges. He spent a couple of dates out of the last season, but he's always heavily involved and always there. 410, Steve Collison then comes through after that. And followed really by back markers that are really too far behind to mention. That includes some very big names like 69 Sean Brooker, the former European #1 in the Howard Cole developments car, and Glenn Salmon, #7, the world champion. We haven't seen too much from him in this, but it still looks very good. It's certainly Mason, Bridges, Collison. That's the way it looks. 42 goes through for fourth place. place at the moment. That's Ad Millicent, the Dutch driver. Graham, the Dutch have always been very good on this, but we seem to be out of contention right now.
Yes, they certainly do. In fact, Jeff Bridges is in exactly where he was in an earlier race. He's up in the second place, but he's under pressure from Steve Collison. Those two having quite a battle there. In actual fact, Bridges made a mistake in the pit bend just a moment ago and very nearly let Collison pass. He got away with it that time, and I'm not sure that he'll get away with another mistake. Collison is poised to punish any little errors that Jeff Bridges may make in that third place car, but they're something around a quarter of a lap now behind that flying 118 car of David Mason, and in the 5 remaining laps I really just don't think there's a great deal of chance of them getting anywhere near him unless mechanical malady intervenes for the leader.
4-1-0, the Buckingham driver then. It's Collison. Keep your eye on him because Steve Collison, a man to be reckoned with. He's in hot pursuit for Bridges, 258. But again, like we've seen over this excellent weekend of racing here at Ipswich, the leader goes out and absolutely wipes the floor with everyone. Mason's in there. He's backmarked the former world champion. He's lapped the European #1. And he's still like he could do that for a few more laps to go. But there are just 2 laps remaining for the youngster. David Mason is in the lead. Jeff Bridges for second. Collison for third. And then we see 42, Ad Millicent, the Dutchman, in 4th position. The rest is really pretty academic, but 38-42, and the 2-2-2 is the way it looks down to 6th position with just that 1 lap to go. So all young David Mason needs to do is just stay out of trouble, keep the car straight, and he will take the national championship from Ray Worley. Not here to defend today, but a checker flag is being waved. There's the winner. There's the new national champion, 118. Young Mason, he'll be mighty pleased with that. Bridges comes through then for second with Steve Collison, 4-1-0 in third. And it looks like, yes indeed, Millicent, the Dutchman, comes through into 4th spot, but there'll be big smiles. The red flags go out, the race is done. We have a new national champion, and what an excellent race that was with the blue sky shining. Relatively instant free, Graham, but again, an excellent drive by the youngster.
Yeah, absolutely. I was speaking to Nick Mason last night, which is David's father, who's a well-known set-up and preparations man in the world of oval racing, and saying, you know, Mason started off very quickly, but that young David often seems to slow down in the last couple of laps, and that is a sign of real maturity, because apparently he just simply slows down when he doesn't need to go that fast anymore. And if you're reading the race that well, and he was doing it again then, because all of a sudden Jeff Bridges, he was like over a quarter of a lap behind, and then suddenly he was only just, you know, kind of 30-40 yards behind. Mason knew exactly what he was doing, you know, so far and no further. Are you going to come, Mr. Bridges? Because we've got it all wrapped up. I just don't need to stress the engine tyres or anything else anymore.
Yes, let's confirm that result. That victory then for David Mason from Jeff Bridges and Steve Collison. Thanks very much to Lee and Graham for their great call. Some superb short track action. New on Sky Sports. I'm sure we'll see a lot more of it.